Hello and welcome to another episode of Worlds Collide. I'm Justin.
And I am Mitch.
And today's episode is featuring Green Lanterns.
Yes.
More specifically...
Well, yeah, we're going to put a focus on Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
But we are going to talk about Green Lanterns as a whole.
The whole core.
Yes.
Okay.
Because originally our plan was to talk specifically on Hal Jordan because there are many Green Lanterns. But while I was doing my research, I realized that there is quite a bit that happens in the Green Lantern mythos after Green Lantern Rebirth that we should probably... So today's episode is going to be doing a lot of backstory of Green Lantern. We're covering everything that happens to the Green Lanterns up to Rebirth. And then next time we do a Green Lantern episode is going to be from Rebirth on.
Okay. Because what... Now, you said there's a lot of Green Lanterns.
There is.
More specifically, there's an entire core. There's one per planet, is there not?
Not planet, sector.
So sector of the universe.
That's right. So the universe has... So the Guardians of the Universe, not to be confused with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
That is Marvel, and we're talking DC.
Yes. The Guardians of the Universe, short little blue men, space leprechauns.
Yeah, they look like old, slick back, white hair grandpa midgets.
That's right.
With blue skin.
But to be specific, they really are space leprechauns. As in, like, when the Guardians came to Earth centuries ago, they were mistaken. They were pretty much the start of the leprechaun myth.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. So the myth of the leprechauns are actually the Guardians of Oa.
Okay. And it's Oa,
Yes.
Guardians of Oa, because the planet Oa is what? The planet that basically houses the Lantern Corps?
It houses the central battery.
The central battery.
Yes.
And I know we're talking all over the place right now, so we'll get into what the central battery is.
Yes.
Basically, one per sector, and there's been, 4 main Earthbound Green Lanterns?
That's right.
Okay.
So the Guardians of the Universe split the universe into 3,600 sectors.
Wow, okay, so there's essentially 3,600 Green Lanterns.
Essentially.
And those positions will always maintain that number.
That's right. Earth is sector 2814.
Yes.
Oh, well, Earth itself is not 2816. The Milky Way, our sector, is sector 2814.
Yeah, so Earth and a few other planets fall under that sector.
That's right.
Are there any other major planets that we know that there's life on other than,
There could be. But that leads into one of the stories about Hal Jordan we're going to get into. So we'll get to that.
Wicked. Okay.
So, going a little bit into the publication history. So before we get into Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns, we should probably talk about Alan Scott.
Yeah, we should probably talk about what is a Green Lantern.
Right. Well, talking about Alan Scott won't really define that.
No. So maybe we should do a quick summary. What is a Green Lantern?
So the Green Lanterns, or the Green Lantern Corps, are space police.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah. They are people who are taken from a planet within their sector, and they are given a lantern ring, a green ring, that gives them the various abilities, but all that what feeds the power of these rings is their own willpower. And these rings are granted to a person within that sector that has shown no fear and the ability to tell the unabashed truth.
Yeah, so it's basically, and they're chosen, I would say, more so than taken.
Yes.
Because basically the way, and they actually did a quick montage of the Green Lantern in, I believe it was Justice League movie.
Yes.
So one of the Green Lanterns died in this little clip. When he fell, the ring animated, removed itself from his finger, and zipped off. Now, when it zipped off, it went searching for a new host, or a new chosen, to give these powers to.
Yes.
Essentially, this ring will go and seek out the next provider for that sector.
Yes.
So that's why they will always maintain that 36,000 people.
Well, it's going to try. Yeah, I love Ryan Reynolds too. Not so much a Green Lantern movie, but I love Ryan Reynolds too.
Yeah, we won't talk about his movie.
Well, no, his movie never happened because Deadpool killed him before he had a chance to film it.
Good point. Good point. Makes a far better mark than he does a Lantern.
Yes.
Yeah. But needless to say, those positions will always should maintain.
Yes.
They should maintain themselves as long as those rings are going to their next vessel, I would say.
But they were not. Not always.
Not
so
always.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that
point.
Yes. So, publication history-wise, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps was not how it all started. Back in 1940, the first Green Lantern was actually Alan Scott. Now, Alan Scott was a railway conductor. He worked on the railways, and he came across this ring that was forged from this mystical meteorite that hit Earth centuries or millennia ago or something like that.
Not nth metal.
Not nth metal. A different metal. Different media.
Material. Okay.
Different media. But this ring that goes in tandem with this lantern is actually mystical, whereas the Green Lantern Corps and the space and everything is technically technology, but Alan Scott is mystical. It's magical in nature.
Okay, I didn't realize it was tech based.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole entire Hal Jordan, the whole entire Green Lantern Corps and everything like that, it is technology.
And that goes for all the different cores.
That's right.
The red, the orange.
That's
yellow.
right. It's all science. It's all science fiction. It's all more like Doctor Who science fiction. It's like
little magic, little science.
That's right. So advanced, it's magic to everybody else.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
But Alan Scott is legit magic. So it later on gets explained that Alan Scott's ring actually taps into the green.
Which is what provides Swamp Thing with his power.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And in the original run of the Green Lantern back in the 1940s, that run of comics was the introduction of two supervillains that we all know and love in today's dates. So two villains that were Alan Scott villains have now become regular DC villains.
Really, who?
Vandal Savage.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And Solomon Grundy.
Oh, okay.
They both got their start in the Alan Scott Green Lantern comic series.
That's wicked.
Yeah.
That's Vandal Savage origin.
Yeah. Was being an Alan Scott villain.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Same with Solomon Grundy, which makes sense because Solomon Grundy, he's a zombie, but he's part plant based. And Alan Scott, when he was a Green Lantern, he had a weakness to wood. His ring couldn't affect anything. So its origin is weird and lame. And, like I've said, comics are fucking weird.
And this was 60s?
40s.
40? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So Alan Scott goes way, way back.
Yeah. Back in, we're talking Golden Age of comics.
Yeah, because he was part of the original Justice League?
Justice Society.
Justice Society.
Yes.
Sorry.
So... before Alan Scott, apparently there was this alien who tried to attack this other planet with the same power that this mystical meteor came from. And as he was trying to attack them, they were a race that all their weapons were made out of wood. And to help combat this guy who had the power of this mystical meteorite, the Guardians made this meteor, this magical thing, the magical entity, to not able to affect wood. So like that, the denizens of this planet were able to beat up this Green Lantern, and like their wooden weapons could go right through his constructs as if there was nothing there.
What?
Yeah, comics are fucking
And they did that to
weird.
mess with them.
To teach him a lesson, kind of thing.
Oh, your typical ways will not work.
Yeah.
Use the Force, Luke.
Yeah. But that all doesn't make sense because they all got retconned, and his power never came from the Guardians. The Guardians have nothing to do with his power.
Right.
And his power actually comes from the green. And it makes more sense that his power doesn't affect wood because his power comes from the green, which is plant life, the magic of plant life.
Yeah, you tripped me up for a second when you said the Guardians.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Well, that's just it.
Why are they affecting him at all?
Well, Crisis, right? Crisis on Infinite Earth, they had to retcon a lot of fucking shit.
Yeah.
That's probably one of those things they had to retcon.
Oh. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So, and then in the Flash, later on in the Flash series, where they start introducing Earth 2 and all that, the multiverse, Alan Scott was part of Earth 2.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So Hal Jordan,
Earth 1.
Earth 1. So Hal Jordan got his first appearance was
They redid it
1959. He got his so Hal Jordan got his introduction in Showcase number 22 in 1959, and he got his start because of the success of Barry Allen Flash, who got started in 1956.
So by redoing a new Flash, they figured, why don't we redo a new Lantern?
Well, as you said, so they redid the Flash in 1956. That got a lot of success. That brought back popularity to comics and started the Silver Age of comics. So 3 years later, they decide to bring back Green Lantern in the same vein as the Flash with Barry Allen, rather than bringing back Alan Scott, because Alan Scott wasn't that popular. Well, he was popular for a little bit, but then he lost a lot of popularity.
Yeah.
Rather than bringing back Alan Scott, they gave him a new character, a new origin and everything.
Kick it off fresh.
Yeah, which they brought in Hal Jordan.
Cool.
Now, funny enough, his first issue, it wasn't even an issue. It was, so these Showcase comics were a bunch of different mini stories, and one of those mini stories was the Hal Jordan one. And Hal Jordan wasn't given an origin. Like, with his story, he was already a Green Lantern when it first started. He didn't get his origin until later on.
It's a comic theme. Throw them into the middle of the action and explain things down the road.
That's right.
It's a good way of writing, I think, because it pulls you in. It catches you quicker, rather than you being like, I got a page or two in and it wasn't getting exciting yet.
Yeah. But Hal Jordan really resonated. He got really popular because... so his first appearance was Showcase number 22 in 1959, and got his first issue in July of 1960. So a year later, he's got his own series.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what happened in his first appearance? Do you have any idea? Do you know who he faced?
I don't quite remember who he faced, but he didn't have any arch nemesis at the time, so it was just
randos. Villain of the day.
Yeah, just randos.
Okay.
I don't quite remember what the situation was. It doesn't really matter.
No. They just introed a new Green Lantern and audience liked it, so good.
But they did eventually introduce arch nemesis for Hal Jordan, because the popularity of Batman, Flash, and all these characters have arch nemesis, and a big reason why they have that popularity is because they have that arch nemesis dynamic.
Of course, and his was Sinestro. Yes.
Yeah.
He was his instructor originally.
Yes.
He's part of the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah.
And they retconned his story too.
Yeah.
So originally it was Sinestro basically got a little power hungry and tried basically dictating rule over his planet, I believe. And obviously the Guardians didn't like how he was using the powers of his ring, so they stripped him of his powers. And then now, did he create the Yellow Corps? Or did the Yellow Ring seek him out?
The Yellow Ring got created much later.
I wasn't sure if it was by him.
No, it was created by
Parallax.
Well, sort of Parallax. So that's why the Green Lantern Corps didn't start until during Rebirth.
Right.
Sinestro was a villain of Green Lantern back in the 1960s, but the idea of the Green Lantern Corps didn't start until Rebirth.
Really?
Yeah.
So prior to that, it was just the Guardians.
That's right. It was there was only Green Lanterns. There was a Yellow Lantern ring, and Sinestro was possessor of the Yellow Lantern ring. So back then, the Yellow Lantern ring was just a ring that was forged by a group of people called the Creators or something like that.
Okay. And
the Creators were a group of people that Hal Jordan had defeated on the multiple occasions. They teamed up with Sinestro, built this ring for Sinestro that had pretty much the same abilities as a Green Lantern, and it got its power from feeding off of Green Lantern powers.
Oh, so he'd go around killing Green Lanterns to steal their power.
That's right. Or, well, as a Green Lantern uses its power, Sinestro's ring would absorb that to fuel itself.
No way.
Yeah.
It's like a complete counter.
Yeah. Exactly.
So he's been changed a few times then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to do that character. I want to do Sinestro.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I enjoyed playing him a lot in the
Justice?
One. Yeah, in Justice. He
Yeah.
was a good character to play.
Yeah. He's got a lot of similarities to the Black Adam. Because the reason why... So, we are going to do an episode of Sinestro, but a brief overview of what happened to him. He was a Green Lantern. He became the ruler of his sector to the point where he became a dictator of his sector. His sector was free of crime and hate and want. Pretty much he was Dr. Doom of his sector. But that was going against the code of the Green Lanterns. The Green Lantern and the Guardians punished him by taking away his lantern and banished him into the voids of space. The Guardians don't fuck around when it comes to punishing. They are harsh.
Yeah, should have done that. Should have done that.
Yeah, they did a few things to him. He got fucked over really hard by the Guardians. He's got reason to hate them.
Now, the majority of the storyline revolving his daughter, is that Rebirth?
Probably. I don't know much about his daughter.
Was it Ceneric or something?
Yeah, I don't know much about his daughter. Probably going to read more about her when we do the episode of Rebirth.
Yeah, because at one point she was also part of the Green Lantern Corps, and at one point...
I remember that. That's Rebirth. That's all Rebirth.
Yeah, Sinestro basically took over and was conscripting.
Yeah.
Basically forcing everyone to join the Yellow.
Yeah, and that's all Rebirth. So, like I said, there's a lot to talk about for Green Lantern, but a lot of the stuff that are now common knowledge of the Green Lanterns and what would be considered the continuity of Green Lantern all happens after Green Lantern Rebirth. It all happens based off of the writings of Jeff Johns.
Yes. Jeff Johns
and Ethan Van Sciver. Well, Jeff Johns is the writer.
He's the main one.
He's the main guy.
Yeah. So where do we go from here then? Once we because his first comic then, where does it start essentially? It's just boom, he's in with some B-class villain, and then do we get another glimpse or two at him before he gets his own original line?
I think he gets his origin in when he first get his first issue, Green Lantern issue number 1 in 1960.
So he's a big enough hit just off the one issue that boom.
Yeah, exactly. So they give him his first issue, they do his origin. His origin shows that, let me go to...
I can't remember the name of the other Lantern.
Hal Jordan publication.
Mondar or something.
Hal Jordan. So Hal Jordan was a second generation test pilot. His father was a test pilot before him. And
an untimely demise. Testing out a new aircraft.
Yeah. While he's testing out an aircraft. Yeah, what do you mean, his dad?
Yeah, so so his dad was the aircraft pilot for the military, right? And he was on site, and I think Hal was just a boy, and he snuck onto the military base and was running, oh, it'll be okay, I just want to go see what my dad's up to, and then boom, something went wrong with the test flight, and his dad exploded and died. And so he basically witnessed that, and he grew up kind of with a little chip on his shoulder. You don't understand me, no one understands me, with him and his mom, and his mom did not want him to follow in the footsteps of his dad.
But he did anyways.
Yeah, he did anyways.
Yeah.
Turned 18, he left, joined the U.S.
Yeah.
U.S. Air Force.
So that speaks to Hal's personality. Hal is reckless, he's fearless, and he is full of himself.
Bit of a loose cannon.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't think. It's not that he's an idiot, he just doesn't think before he jumps. He's one of those, I'll jump and things will just happen.
Work it out on the way down.
Yeah, exactly. that's Hal Jordan. And that's why him and Batman don't get along.
No, Batman's like, what do you mean you didn't think 1 through 7? He's like, what do you mean 1 through 7?
There's more than 2?
What?
But yeah, so then a Green Lantern, Eben Sur, was on its way to Earth when Hal Jordan was now a test pilot. Eben Sur, a Green Lantern, was on his way, and the Green Lanterns have a weakness to the color yellow. So from my understanding, originally the reason why Eben Sur crashed on the planet Earth is because of our yellow sun.
No. No, it was so the what are they, constructs? There's these 5 things. I forget what these 5 things are, but essentially They were created in some other world to basically end this war. And then
You talk about the Manhunters?
no, they're what is it, Eldar?
Okay.
Elsar. He has something contained, so he's using his ring
Yeah.
to contain some kind of creature on his spaceship.
Okay.
And this creature is one of these construct things, or sorry, it's not a construct. It's I forget the word.
Yeah.
But there's basically 5 of them, and he has one of them.
Yeah.
And he has it trapped on his ship for whatever reason, and at some point he loses control of his construct because this thing's talking to him, basically convincing him that whatever he's trying to do isn't going to work. So he basically starts to lose faith. And when he starts to lose faith, the power of his construct concealing this thing in his ship starts to go.
Yeah.
And the construct wall fails, this thing breaks out, attacking him. They fight, it escapes out into space, and he has to crash, suffering mortal wounds.
Yeah.
I forget what the hell this thing's called.
But that is another weakness of the Green Lanterns. The Green Lanterns have 2 weaknesses. They have a weakness to the color yellow, and they also have a weakness. Their other weakness is if their power is based off of their willpower. If you make them start doubting themselves, then they will actually stop being able to use their ring.
Yeah, maybe Kenny can find the name of this creature that jumped out of was it Elsar?
Ebenser?
Ebenser's ship.
Yeah. So in Ebenser, if you need the spelling, it's Abinsur.
And he's basically this pink-skinned bald dude.
Yeah. But now, this story you're talking about, was that like originally origin, or is that a retcon origin?
That's a good question, Mitch.
Because I'm pretty sure the original reason why he crashed is because of the Earth's yellow sun.
That's really probably 1940s original reason.
1958, but yes.
Yes, that's probably the original, and this is probably a retcon.
Retcon to make more sense, because if Earth's yellow sun made Ebenser crash land onto our planet, then how is it that Hal Jordan able to use
How can there even be an Earth sector?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You know what I mean? It's like, that's silly.
Yeah. But when Ebenser crashed, the moral of the story is when Ebenser crashed on Earth, he was dying and needed to get a new Green Lantern for the sector of
2814.
Yes.
So basically, zip, the ring goes off and finds Hal.
Yes. Almost finds Guy Gardner.
Almost.
Yes. So at the time when the ring was looking for somebody that is truthful and without fear, there was 2 candidates, Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner. Hal Jordan just happened to be in closer vicinity, so the ring went to him instead of Guy Gardner.
And when did we find this out? Later comics?
Much later. Yeah. Much later. But Hal finds out that because Guy Gardner was also a candidate, but Hal got chosen, Guy Gardner is now his backup. If anything happens to Hal, Guy Gardner is going to pick up as the Green Lantern.
It's good to know you have a backup.
Yeah. Yeah. So when Hal finds out about this, he actually goes out and meets Guy Gardner, and then they become friends, and then Guy Gardner ends up getting his own ring and gets trained by Kilowog, and then after he gets trained by Kilowog, he goes out and starts having adventures with Hal Jordan.
That's wicked. Now we see Kilowog in the Ryan Reynolds movie. He is the big pig-looking pink brute thing.
Yeah. Calls everybody posers.
Yeah, posers.
Yeah.
So you do get a glimpse of Kilowog. He's a cool creature.
He's one of my favorites. I really like Kilowog.
I think a lot of people. Yeah. He's a fan favorite. Yeah.
Well, especially after I found out something interesting about Kilowog. We'll get to that when we get to this part of the story.
Okay.
But remind me, Crisis on Infinite Earth, something about Kilowog.
Okay.
All right. Remind me.
I'll be ready.
Okay. So, where? John, why am I on John's story?
Any luck over there, Kenny?
Not a little bit. Give me a sec.
So first issue would... So, Green Lantern's first run started in 1960, and it would run until issue number 89 in 1972.
It's a long stretch.
Yeah, it went for 12 years.
That's wicked.
Yeah, so in 1970, Dennis O'Neil took over with Neil Adams as the artist.
Okay.
So Dennis O'Neil, that might sound familiar, is because this duo, are the notorious duo who started the Green Lantern, Green Arrow series. which was in those series was when the Green Arrow story of when Speedy was a heroin junkie. That was a Green Arrow, Green Lantern story.
When Roy had been cloned and lost his arm and
all that bullshit. And Dennis O'Neil ended up using the Green Lantern and Green Arrow dynamic to do a lot of the political stuff that he wanted to use comics as a form. So he wanted to use comics to be voice his opinions and his
political
new
agenda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Green Arrow and Green Lantern stories together, they tackled issues of power, racism, sexism, and exploitation.
Those were going to be my guesses, probably.
Yeah.
Money, drugs, and sex. Much.
And
racism.
And racism. And exploitation.
Yep.
So you have... And there's that odd dynamic. There's the odd couple, the odd couple cop movies, buddy cop movies,
Starsky and Hutch
kind of thing. Yeah, where it's like two cops of opposing ideas having to work together.
Yeah, because Arrow will kill you. He doesn't care. We just gotta get it done.
Yeah, well, that's not the dynamic. So where they're different is you've got Hal Jordan, the space cop. And Hal Jordan,
city slicker.
Well, Hal Jordan, the anarchist.
Yeah. So
pretty much a right wing and a left wing teaming up together, pretty much. Not that Hal Jordan is left wing or something like that, but Hal Jordan is how is it described? So, Green Lantern, who is a gradualist liberal figure of intergalactic law enforcer, and Green Arrow, an outspoken anarchist.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I did find out a little bit.
Yeah.
So, from what I can see, it isn't actually named. It's just a parasitic creature that feeds on an energy called I Factor.
Okay.
Which it can slow development of a planet. The I Factor enables inventiveness, and the creatures attack civilizations and destabilize them and can slow their progress. He encountered the creature on a world that should have been in the Atomic Age, but because of the parasite was only in the Middle Ages.
Huh?
So he then fought, and the creature latched onto him.
Yeah.
But during the battles, he tried to recharge his ring a bit, but he couldn't, and his ship was badly damaged. And then he moved into Earth's radiation orbit, which then affected him, leading to a crash. That's pre-crisis what Hal Jordan learns from the ring about his origins.
Yes.
Comics are fucking weird.
Yeah, I watched a YouTube episode earlier today, and it was basically breaking down that event. Now, they gave these creatures a name because it said that there were 5 of them, and they came from some other dimension things. So I'll do some more research and find out what the hell these things are.
Yeah.
It's going to bug me for that.
Well, we'll talk about it when we do our second part of the Green Lantern.
Yeah. Yeah, once we get into the Rebirth and Darkest Night.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what else do I have for publication history? And so when the Green Lantern got canceled in 1970, it picked back up in 1976.
Still standalone?
Yeah.
Or was this the Green Arrow?
Green Arrow, Green Lantern, all of that canceled in 1972, and then Green Lantern by himself, the Green Lantern series, picked back up in 1976.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was still with the tag team.
No.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Alright, so Hal Jordan, what else have we talked about? Okay, so
Bowser, go down.
Alright, so let's talk a little bit about Guy Gardner.
I was going to say, is it time to talk about Guy?
Yeah.
Because there's 4 Earthbound Lanterns in total. We got Hal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, technically we got Alan Scott.
Yes.
Then we got Hal Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got Guy Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
Blanking on the next one.
John Stewart.
And
then
then
Kyle Rayner.
Yeah. So 5 technically, 4 from the Lantern Corps, 1 magical bastard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and Kyle Rayner is another animal altogether. We'll get to that.
Basically the god.
Yeah, pretty much.
God of DC Universe.
Pretty much. But yeah, so Guy Gardner was a juvenile delinquent who eventually got straightened out by his older cop brother, Mace.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
After he got straightened out by his older brother, he went to college, earned himself a bachelor's degree in education and psychology.
Okay.
So, and then where he played football until he received a career-ending injury.
Wait, did he blow his knee out or something?
Something like that. It wasn't very specific as to what the injury is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was wondering if it would flare up later in his fighting days. You know, some enemy of his learns, "Oh, your old football knee."
Yeah. So it was revealed that you know how I said that if Guy was closer to the Lantern, it would have chosen him rather than Hal.
Yep.
You find out later on that had the ring chosen Guy instead of Hal, Guy would have died really early in his career as a Green Lantern.
Why?
Because he didn't have the tools to survive something that Hal Jordan did. So had Guy been the Green Lantern rather than Hal, Guy would have died, whereas Hal survived.
Shit.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So, and it turns out that in a Booster Gold comic, Booster Gold, just so you guys know, I'm a big fan of Booster Gold as well. Booster Gold is a character from like somewhere in the future, like the 30th century, let's say. And in this future, he was a nobody, really. He was a loser. But he was a big fanboy of superheroes. So he got himself a hold of a time machine and goes back in time with technology from his time to pretend to be some badass superhero. But in reality, he's just a loser nobody. So Booster Gold, with this time hopping technology, he ended up going back in time and actually convinced Guy Gardner to go visit his dying grandmother, which made it so that he wouldn't be out of the distance to become the Green Lantern, ensuring Hal Jordan to become the Green Lantern.
What?
Yeah. So if it wasn't for Booster Gold, Guy Gardner would have been the Green Lantern, and Guy Gardner would have died much sooner than when he should have died.
What does this event involve?
What do you mean?
Is it like a flying incident?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure Booster Gold just pretty much went to go talk.
I meant the event that
would have killed.
Yeah.
I don't know what that event is.
Oh, okay. So that'll be something for us to look up. I want to know.
Yeah, but
guy can't swim or something.
So he got trained by Kilowog. So this is where shit starts going south for Guy Gardner.
Okay.
So during an earthquake, Guy is hit by a bus while he's saving his students.
Okay.
So the Guardian's name. When he got hit by a bus, he was incapacitated, and while he was incapacitated, the Guardians went and found John Stewart and named him the new backup for Hal Jordan, because Guy Gardner couldn't be the backup anymore.
Oh, and this was before he was even a Lantern?
He was already a Lantern.
Oh, okay.
But
now, why is there more than one Lantern in the sector on Earth?
But because at this point here, there is only one Lantern. It's Hal Jordan. So Guy Gardner has a ring, but he's only a backup. He's not called into duty unless Hal Jordan can't do whatever it is.
Oh, but he has a ring.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it won't work.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It doesn't work until Hal's out of the picture, and then they're like, okay, we'll flip your lantern on.
Yeah. or he doesn't use it. I'm not quite sure.
There's a parental lock.
Yeah. I never read the comics from back then, so I don't know exactly how that worked, but that's pretty much what I read.
Okay.
So that kind of idea, yeah.
I was just kind of curious, like, how are there so many lanterns right now? How is there so many rings in effect?
Yeah. So when Guy got injured, what's up, McBad?
What's up, Worse?
When Guy got injured by getting hit by that bus, that's when the Guardians found
John Stewart. Back up to the backup.
That's right. And then after that,
because there's points in time where all their rings are active. They're all lanterns, and I was always like, how the hell did they do that?
Yeah. So during a fight, I didn't write down what the fight was. Doesn't really matter. But in the fight, Hal Jordan's power battery explodes in Guy's face, which somehow transported Guy into the Phantom Zone.
No way.
Yeah.
Yo, he has the worst luck.
Oh, dude, it hasn't even begun yet. So while he's in the Phantom Zone, Hal and Guy's girlfriend Carrie Limbo, they think Guy's dead. So they end up starting a relationship to the point where they actually get engaged. So all the while they're doing the nasty, Guy is in the Phantom Zone getting tortured and abused by General Zod and all these other beings that are in a Phantom Zone.
Guy is literally just the shit kick puppet of the DC universe.
Oh, dude. So when Guy finally escapes the Phantom Zone, he's suffering major brain damage and ends up being in a coma for several years.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All because he's a backup.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
All this while riding the bench? Like, shit.
Yeah. So, Guy trapped in the Phantom Zone after Hal power, blah, blah, blah. Relationship accumulated into a marriage proposal. Guy finally escaped the Phantom Zone. He's left in the coma for a number of years. And then he gets revived during Infinite Crisis. Crisis on Infinite Earths. So,
Right.
So in Crisis on Infinite Earths, some rogue guardians revived Guy to lead some of the most powerful villains to go after the Anti-Monitor, which that attack ended up failing. But,
yes.
But Guy was made as the...
I'm back! And I'm dead again.
Yeah, pretty much. But Guy was made to lead the the powerful enemies, the powerful villains, to go after the Anti-Monitor during Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. After some events, Guy loses his ring and is depowered. So when he got revived by these rogue guardians, he was given another ring that had nothing to do with the central battery.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called a total autonomous ring.
Oh, that's pretty dope.
Yeah. But then him and Hal end up getting into a fight to who should be the Green Lantern, and Hal won, and that depowered Guy somehow. The guy had to give up his ring.
They just got into a pissing match, essentially.
Pretty much.
It was, I want to be the one lantern.
Yeah.
No, me.
Escapes, Crisis. Guy loses his ring and is depowered. So then Hal gets a hold of... Or not Hal. Guy ends up getting a hold of Sinestro's Yellow Lantern ring. And then was one of the heroes who tried to fight Doomsday in the death of Superman. So, yeah, Guy ends up getting a hold of the Sinestro's Yellow Lantern ring. Yeah. And that's why, like, some of his most iconic Guy images of Guy Gardner, wearing that lame 90s leather jacket, and you can see he actually has a yellow ring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. And then when Doomsday came to Earth, the Death of Superman event, Guy was one of those superheroes that tried to fight Doomsday before Doomsday got to Superman. Before the clash of Doomsday versus Superman happened, Guy was one of the superheroes that tried to fight.
One of those poor beings who got in his fucking way.
Yeah, and got his ass handed to him.
Yeah, like ripped apart.
Yeah. Guy's been a member of the Justice League International.
Who feel bad for Guy?
Oh man, yeah. Guy, DC for some reason had a real hate on for Guy, because like
is he French Canadian?
No, no, he's from Boston. He's a redhead from Boston.
Guy?
Yeah. Guy Gardner.
He's like the most, like, he's made to be like, you're gonna get punched.
Pretty much. When Guy came back from his coma, and because of all the brain damage that he suffered and all the tragedies he suffered, changed him completely. So when Guy first started, he was just a vanilla guy. Didn't have much of a personality. He was just a teacher.
Yeah.
When he came back from all that brain damage and everything, he became the guy that we all know, which is the
shit talking,
asshole, the the I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I'm gonna say what I want to say, and I'm gonna be as ignorant as possible because Guy is ignorant as fuck.
Yeah, Sinestro has him at one point and he's torturing him and he's sitting there chirping.
Yeah.
That's the best you can do. You're a pussy. You suck.
Pretty much.
And he's like, all right, turn it up. Just starts reciting the Green Lantern oath.
Yeah.
Like, la la, this doesn't affect me.
Yeah. Great. I've always saw Guy Gardner as Rowdy Roddy Piper if he was a Green Lantern.
Yeah. Yeah, angry Scottish wrestler, but give him a power ring.
Yeah. Yeah. And Guy was one of my favorite Lanterns, honestly. I really like Guy.
He got thrown through the ringer. It's
Right.
like, you gotta feel bad for him in some ways.
Yeah. So we're gonna put a pause on Guy for right now. So we're up to Doomsday, and then he got his ass kicked by Doomsday.
Right.
So we're gonna stop there because there's going to be more to talk about, but I want to step back and now talk about John Stewart a little bit.
Bring up each of the lanterns into
Up to
retrospect
this
of where
point.
where we are in the current continuum. This is what, 1970, 1980?
No, the Doomsday stuff happens in the 90s. Hi, Mom.
Hey.
So let's talk about John Stewart.
Okay.
So, like I mentioned earlier, when Guy got injured, John Stewart got tapped to be the new replacement, the new backup for Hal Jordan.
Right.
So, John Stewart, he's got his first appearance in Green Lantern issue number 87 in 1972.
Okay, and now we can't see you, but we know you're there. Now, originally, in one of the backstories I was reading, it was later issues doing the origin for Hal.
Mm-hmm.
So it showed that this Lantern was actually one of his co-pilots on the base.
Sort of.
Kinda.
Sort of. Because that was a retcon.
That was a later retcon.
Yes. Because when John Stewart was first created, he wasn't military at all. He was an architect.
Oh, okay. So later they retcon.
But he was an architect that worked on Ferris Airlines.
And it was the Ferris Airlines that his dad flew for, died for. He eventually had to fly for, I think, as well.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's bring him back a little bit. Now that I mentioned Ferris Airlines, let's bring it back to Hal Jordan for a little bit.
Okay.
So Hal Jordan was a test pilot for Ferris Airlines. And the reason why I wanted to talk on that a little bit is because Hal Jordan's main squeeze, his main love interest, is... Let me go back to Hal Jordan here real quick.
So many lanterns, so many sections.
Yeah. I should have wrote her name separately. Carol Ferris, I want to say. Yeah, Carol Ferris. So Carol Ferris was his main squeeze, and like pretty much, and so Carol Ferris, the name of the place is Ferris Airlines, just because her dad owned Ferris Airlines. So just like in the Ryan Reynolds movie, Hal Jordan had a relationship with Carol Ferris. Carol's dad was pretty much his boss. But her dad ends up retiring, and he ends up giving Ferris Airlines to her. So now all of a sudden she goes from being the daughter of the boss to being the boss. So at that point there, she decided to call off the relationship with Hal Jordan because now all of a sudden she's his boss.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah. So no longer dating, and because Hal is her employee now. So just wanted to go in that tangent a little bit because she is important because eventually she becomes Star Sapphire, and who ends up being a villain / partner / lover. She's pretty much Catwoman, but for Green Lantern.
Because there's a bunch of Star Sapphires. They're like a team. There's like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, and then when it goes to Rebirth and the whole entire spectrum of light, they become the Indigo Lanterns, I think.
Ion Lanterns or something.
Yeah, the Ring of Love.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's next episode.
Yeah, we'll cover all that in Rebirth.
We'll probably talk more about Carol Ferris and Star Sapphire when we do our episode 2 of Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Sure.
Arms reach. Don't touch.
Yeah, we're about 6 feet.
If we get our lean on,
yeah.
How about now?
Yeah.
So that brings us back to
Jon Stewart. Let's go back to Jon Stewart. So, like I said, Jon Stewart, when he was first created, he was an architect, and then eventually got retconned to being a veteran U.S. Marine.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's where he was like his co-pilot or whatever.
Yeah, it said at some point in the military they had even come to blows at one point, and this was, I think, prior to Hal Jordan's mom dying. So before he even became a Lantern.
Possibly.
Yeah, so This was one of the origins. It was at one day in the mess hall or something. They came to blows. They were fighting. And he runs into his brother, and his brother's telling him how his mom's getting sick, and you should go see mom before she passes. And he's like, well, I'll go see her right now. And he's like, well, you're still working for the Air Force, so until you quit that, don't go see mom.
Yeah.
And that's when I think he was doing some test flight for some new aircraft that they had, and he wasn't even given authorized clearance to fly this thing. So he's flying this thing unauthorized. He's only supposed to push like Mach 1 on it. He ends up pushing like Mach 3.2. And he's like, oh, like it's doing great. And they're like, what the hell are you doing? Get the hell down here right now. And he's like, well, I'm just going a little further. And he tries to push it a little farther. Basically blows up the aircraft, crash lands it, survives, and then he's kicked out of the Air Force. And that's when he goes to see his mom. Too late, she died. And that was one of the retcon origins that they gave him later on.
Yeah. But yeah, so one other thing about the Green Lantern powers is we haven't really talked about what the Green Lantern power is, but what the Green Lantern power can do, essentially, its main power really is the ability to create various constructs. So Hal Jordan being a pilot, a military pilot, a lot of his constructs are like he'll make a construct of a jet and throw the jet at you,
or get a jet gun and do like a jet Gatling gun, or throw rockets or missiles.
Exactly. That's a lot of what Hal Jordan does because that's what his imagination thinks of. Now Jon Stewart, and Guy Gardner, not much of imagination. So
Guy's more of a ball with spikes. He's swinging flails and throwing boxing gloves and shit.
Exactly.
He's very basic, very physical, where Hal's a lot more artillery based.
That's right. Now Jon Stewart, being the architect, his constructs are very elaborate. Like he'll create like trebuchets.
Yeah.
And whatnot. Like he could create like whole cities, and like
he'll create like a vault. He'll just lock you away.
Pretty much. Now Hal's done that as well. He's used cages and whatnot, but nowhere near the levels of detail that Jon Stewart. And we haven't gotten to Kyle Rayner yet.
Yeah. Now it's funny how each Lantern controls their ring and their powers differently.
Yeah.
They're all capable essentially of the same thing.
Yeah.
But how they wield it is very, very different.
Yeah, which is always brings back to. I'm going to go a little bit of a tangent here before we get back to Jon Stewart. One thing that I've always wondered about is, so the Green Lantern is given to somebody without fear, while Marvel has the man without fear, Daredevil, who is blind. So one thing, given Daredevil a Green Lantern ring, would that work? Because like he's blind. So what does his imagination create, first of all? And second of all...
He fears the unknown, though. If he can't hear it, sense it, smell it, he'll probably fear it.
Well, that's just it. Like, you give him a ring, now he can fly. How does he see? Sense of feeling is one of those main things that gives him sight.
I feel like if you were making a construct, it would just be like a tornado. It would just be ever moving and shifting, and it just can't settle on a shape. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And then he wouldn't fly. He would never use a flight ability because I don't even think...
ceiling.
I don't even think he would use the force field ability because that would also limit his ability to use his senses. So I think even though Daredevil is a man without fear, he would make a terrible Green Lantern.
Probably a bad Yellow Lantern, too.
Well, any lantern, really.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so tangent done. Let's go back to Jon Stewart.
Back to DCU.
So Jon Stewart has not been like Guy Gardner got shit on, but Jon Stewart got shit on too. Like DC had not been kind. DC writers were not kind to Jon Stewart either.
When you really think about it, they're not kind to any fucking Lantern ever.
No,
ever. I'm pretty sure every Lantern's died at least once,
or gotten their family killed, or their city killed, or gotten other people killed,
or killed their kids, or like
yeah. Which one? The Netflix Daredevil or the movie Daredevil?
Yeah, Ben Affleck or the other guy?
Blanking on his name right now.
The other guy.
Yeah. But so when Jon Stewart first became a Green Lantern, Hal Jordan didn't get along.
No.
Hal thought that John was a belligerent. He had a belligerent attitude towards authority. But then John, yeah, I figured. But John ends up proving himself being worthy and reliable, and they do end up becoming best friends very quickly.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, there's always that rivalry.
Yeah.
Right? And then also, it probably must be a big blow to their ego. What, there's only supposed to be one Lantern, and somehow there's two of us? Well, there can only be one Highlander.
Yeah. So... More so than Guy ever did. Whenever Hal was not available for a Green Lantern mission or whatever, John would be the one who would fill in for Hal.
Right.
Are they related? I just noticed that they had similar facial features. Who?
It's who related?
What? Justin and I? If we're related, no, we're not. Became full-time Lantern. Okay, so there's one point where Hal. Actually, let's. I'm gonna go back to. There's a lot of jumping back and forth. I'm going back to Hal now.
Yeah, because we're kind of jumping between the years, jumping between the characters, jumping between the writers.
That's right. So in 1982. So in issue number 151 in 1982 through issue 172 in 1984. So
that's a lot of numbers there.
Yeah. So for 21 issues between 1982 and 1984 for 2 years, Hal got exiled into space.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
he just wasn't allowed to return to Earth, or
that's right. Yeah, he was exiled to prove his loyalty to the Guardians,
the Corps.
You're
supposed to defend the sector, not just Earth. Get off Earth.
Exactly.
Go see who else needs help.
Exactly. So Hal got exiled and got forced to protect his sector rather than just focusing on Earth.
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah.
Those aren't beard. Yeah, he's got a beard.
Yeah. So when he came back, Hal and Carol ended up getting into a kerfuffle. Pretty much, she made him choose between her or the Green Lantern, and he chose her. He gave up being a Green Lantern.
Oh, so that's where Jon Stewart took over full time.
That's right. So Hal quit being a Green Lantern to be full time with Carol, and Jon Stewart became full time Green Lantern until Crisis on Infinite Earth happened, and all the reboots and everything happened after Crisis. And when Crisis happened, Hal became the main Green Lantern again.
What happened? Was there any Guy? Was there any?
John? Guy came back during Crisis. Remember?
Yeah, I meant after the culmination of Crisis. Where did Guy and John fit into the scheme of things?
Guy was no longer a Lantern.
Right.
He had that yellow Lantern.
Yeah.
And John was delegated back to being backup, I believe.
Okay.
Or they were both Lanterns at this point.
Back up to the backup.
Yeah. So, returns as Green Lantern after Enough Crisis on Infinite Earth, after Superman's death. Okay, let's go back to Jon Stewart now.
Yeah.
So now John is full-time. After Hal quit, John was trained by a Green Lantern called Katma Tui.
Katma Tui.
Yes.
Never heard of that guy.
Girl. Actually.
Girl.
Yeah, because they end up starting a relationship and they end up getting married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. John and Kat fell in love and they got married. Then John's ring ended up getting rendered powerless by Sinestro.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then Katma ends up getting murdered by Star Sapphire.
Who was essentially Carol Ferris.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And then John Stewart ends up getting falsely accused of killing Carol Ferris.
So someone kills Carol Ferris, though.
Yes. And he gets falsely accused of it.
How does Hal feel about that?
Unsure.
We're gonna go with angry.
Yeah. Blamed John for failures, tragedies, became caretaker of cycle. Became first moral guardian. Okay, so yeah, all this happened before. Okay, so we're still on track. We're still on time.
Okay.
I want to make sure I wasn't jumping ahead on timelines.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so I'm not 100% sure as to how reacted to John being accused
involved with it, essentially.
Exactly. But he was also because Hal ends up saving him. So anyways, John ends up also being accused of theft by this made up DC country called South Nambia.
Okay.
Which is essentially like South Africa kind of thing. And he ends up getting jailed and tortured until he ends up getting freeing himself by his repowered ring. Hal Jordan showed up and repowered his ring.
Yeah.
So Hal and John end up teaming up with each other to escape this South Nambia. After all this happened, John ended up going on a cosmic odyssey. So he went traveling across the universe. Where he on this odyssey, while he was traveling Earth, he ends up failing to prevent the destruction of the planet Zenshi by an avatar of the anti-life equation. So the anti-life equation, we haven't done an episode on Darkseid yet, but the anti-life equation is what is Darkseid's big goal. Darkseid's goal is to learn to find the anti-life equation. The anti-life equation is what will allow Darkseid mastery over free will. So the anti-life equation is a dominance of will. And so this manifestation of the anti-life equation ends up destroying this planet called Zenshi. And John Stewart failed to protect it, failed to stop its destruction.
Right.
So the Martian Manhunter, I think, was with him on this. And Martian Manhunter blamed John Stewart for failing to save the destruction of this planet.
What?
Yeah.
John?
Yeah. So Martian Manhunter blamed John for the failure. After all of that happened, after the series of tragedies, so his wife got killed, got falsely accused of killing the love of his best friends, the love of the life of his best friend.
Right.
Falsely accused of theft by an entire nation. Blamed for the destruction of the entire planet. Like I said, Guy is not the only one who gets shit on. John gets shit on too.
No kidding, huh?
So because of that, John is actually left. He's left suicidal. Yeah, so John ends up going suicidal, like depression, dealing with depression and everything. But then he becomes the Guardians makes him the caretaker of the Mosaic World, which is a patchwork of communities from multiple planets.
Okay, so he's kind of taking care of Canada.
Pretty much. So he was successful as this brought back life to him. This brought back a new
sense of order and trust and self-esteem. And
exactly.
Sense of worth.
Exactly. So he became so successful that John became the first mortal guardian. So he became a guardian of the universe. What am I going to say?
Can we get all the superheroes to rid the Earth of COVID-19? Dr. Manhattan's working on it.
Yeah. Along with Doctor Strange.
And Batman.
Yeah.
And Reed Richards.
Yeah. Still haven't figured it out yet.
Doom figured it out, but he's just being a dick.
Yeah. Holding it for himself.
He only gave it to Latveria.
Yeah. But yeah, so Jon Stewart ends up being named a guardian.
No way! He gets the promotion to be an actual guardian.
Yeah, he becomes the first ever mortal guardian.
Mortal guardian.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah.
Because I know later down the line, it's probably at Rebirth or so. Him and Sinestro's daughter team up to basically to bring union to the Yellow and Green Corps. Because there was a big onslaught. They're massacring each other.
Which
I think that's all Rebirth, though.
That's all after Rebirth. We'll go over that. We'll go over that in part 2.
Yeah, because I know John's got big parts to fill in.
Yes. Well, they all do.
Yeah.
Guy has big parts.
Kyle
has
bigger, probably one of the biggest parts.
Yeah. But speaking of which, though, I forgot to mention one other. So speaking of firsts, so John was the first ever mortal guardian, but John actually has one other first under his title.
What's that?
That I completely forgot right at the beginning. Jon Stewart was DC's first black superhero.
Oh, was he the first black superhero?
Yeah, for DC's first black superhero.
Oh, for DC's.
Black Panther
I was going to say Black Panther's Marvel.
Yeah. So Black Panther was before Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
But Jon Stewart was DC's first black superhero.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So he was before Cyborg. Yeah.
That was number 2.
There might have been like Black Lightning would have been another one, and
yeah, I was just
been
thinking, who the hell else is there?
Mr. Terrific.
Yeah,
he's another black superhero, but yeah, Jon Stewart was before all.
There's been a few. Okay.
Yeah, but yes, okay. So back on track here. Okay, so now we are back on track. So
where's that bring us to, Kyle?
No, we haven't gotten. Sort of. We're getting into Kyle now.
Okay.
So, I believe we're back to... Let me go back to Guy real quick here. Becoming an actor, got trained by Kilowog, Earthquake, Trap, Phantom Zone. You know what? I'm going to put a check mark beside all these so I know which ones I've talked about. Talked about all of these.
So many key points.
Yeah, Guy trapped in
So
the
many
Phantom
timelines.
Zone.
It's hard to keep it all straight.
Yeah. Guy finally escapes the Phantom Zone. Crisis after... some events, loses his ring and is depowered. Mm-hmm. Then gets a hold of Sinestro's Yellow Lantern ring. Was one of the heroes to try to fight Doomsday in the death of Superman.
Stupid.
Apparently, he's got an evil clone named Joe Gardner. Who
Guy?
Yeah.
Joe Guy?
Joe Gardner. Yeah. So Guy has an evil clone named Joe, who committed murder in Guy's name. Comics are weird.
Just can't cut a break. Can't cut a break.
His older brother Mace becomes an assassin named Militia.
Why? You were good, bro.
And Guy becomes a new hero named Warrior. So, like I said, comics are fucking weird.
So he's no longer a Lantern.
No, he's no longer a Lantern. So he loses when he becomes a warrior. He loses his ring in his fight with. Okay, so when he becomes warrior, it's because turns out he's got latent Voldarian heritage in his blood, going back millennia ago.
Voldarian? What is Voldarian?
It's an alien race.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that allows him to grow super big and allow him to create guns out of his arms. Or various weapons out of his arms. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, let me show you an example.
This is an alien race?
Yeah, so let me show you a picture of Guy in warrior form.
It's very strange.
That's Guy in warrior form.
What the hell?
Yeah.
He's really big.
Yeah. This guy right here, that's Guy in warrior form. In his Voldarian form.
So what has he got? Extra strength?
Extra strength, the ability to create various weapons out of his arms, shape-shifting capabilities, because that's not like... So, yeah, you can see Guy, he's normal, and then he ends up transforming into this big brute, because you can see him, like, he's normal, and then he transforms into the big brute. So, yeah, so that's him as warrior.
Okay.
Yeah, and he remains warrior for quite some time, actually.
No.
Oh, and for anybody who wants to see how Sinestro looks like, that's Sinestro. Of the Yellow Lanterns.
Young Sinestro, not old Sinestro, not...
No, that's old Sinestro. That's part of the Yellow Lantern Corps.
Well, in the sense that he ages past rebirth, and then they bring him back to his youth.
Yes. We'll get to that next episode.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Alright, so I think that covers everything about Hal Jordan. So now let's talk about Parallax.
And then we'll do Kyle.
Yes. So, Hal Jordan. Second generation pilot. Guy Gardner, John Stewart. Exiled. Choose relationship with Carol Ferris over being a Green Lantern. John Stewart takes over. Resumes as Green Lantern after Crisis on Infinite Earth. After Superman's death and rebirth, Hal's hometown, Coast City, was destroyed by Mongol. So, Superman dies. When Superman dies, you have the reign of Superman. Introduction of 4 different Supermen: Superboy, Man of Steel, the Last Son of Krypton, and the Man of Tomorrow. So, Man of Tomorrow was Cyborg Superman, and the Last Son of Krypton was actually, I always forget his name, Vindicator, Violator. No, Violator is a Spawn villain.
Last Son of Krypton.
Yeah, he's the one that looked like he was made out of space and like black energy.
Can't remember.
Yeah.
Was it John Henry Iron?
What's that?
Or was it Steel? Steel was the other one.
Yeah. Last Son.
Frank Sinatra. Nope.
Krypton.
Because these guys basically stepped up to fill Superman's shoes after his death. He's gone and the world's in mourning.
That's right. That's not Krypton.
Maybe Kenny can find it.
Rain. Maybe Superman, Last Son of Krypton. Eradicator. Eradicator is the Last Son of Krypton. So let me go get a picture of Eradicator so you can see who I'm talking about. Well, it doesn't matter. Eradicator is not the one that I'm actually interested in the most. The one I'm interested in the most is Cyborg Superman, who ends up being Hank Henshaw. Hank Henshaw, it might sound familiar to you because in Supergirl, the TV show, Martian Manhunter John Jones takes the name of Hank Henshaw.
Right.
Hank Henshaw is the real name. See, there's
the Eradicator.
Eradicator. Yeah.
Basically Superman with glasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baywatch Superman.
Yeah.
Nice.
But Hank Henshaw is Cyborg Superman. Cyborg Superman ended up being like the big bad guy of the reign of Superman kind of thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So during a battle between while the events happening, and Superman comes back and he's reborn, and during a battle between Superman and Cyborg Superman, Mongol, another one of Superman's villains,
right,
ends up coming to Earth and he ends up destroying Coast City, which is Green Lantern's hometown, where his family's at and all his friends are at. And there's millions of people who live in Coast City. Right. Destroyed. So all of Hal's family, extended family, all dead. So when Hal comes back to Earth and Coast City he comes back to find out his
and this is after his 2-year galaxy-bound space odyssey.
Exactly. So Hal comes back, his hometown is destroyed. He goes insane. He ends up using his powers to recreate Coast City, even its inhabitants and his family. And the Guardians ends up calling Hal on this because he's using his ring for personal gains, and that is against their code. So they end up reprimanding Hal, or tried to reprimand Hal. They tried to punish him. They told him to come to Oa to take your punishment, kind of thing. Well, Hal went back to Oa for sure, but when he went to Oa, he ends up absorbing the entire Green Lantern power from the central core, killing all the Guardians except for Ganthet.
Yeah.
Ganthet is the only surviving member of the Guardians. He ends up brutalizing most of the Green Lanterns that are at Oa at the time, killing a few, and killing Kilowog, including Kilowog. Oh, speakers, let's go back a second.
Prior to Kilowog's death.
I had mentioned something cool about Kilowog and Crisis.
Yes.
When I was watching Death Battle of Green Lantern versus Ben 10,
yep.
I found out they mentioned that... are you wearing Crocs, Mitch? Yes, I am wearing Crocs.
We'll sanitize everything.
Kilowog, with the power of his Green Lantern, survived the retcon.
What?
He survived the power of... so when the Anti-Monitor started destroying realities, Kilowog survived that.
He's like, I want to die, and he just uses willpower to live?
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Yeah.
Stubborn bastard.
So when Death Battle were doing the Green Lantern versus Ben 10, and they're going for like how tough Green Lanterns are, well, they can survive a retcon. That's how powerful Green Lanterns are.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, Green Lanterns have more power than just creating constructs. They can also, like, Hal Jordan has the ability to time travel.
What?
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
we're getting to that. I'm actually getting to that.
Ooh.
So when Hal Jordan goes back to Oa, he absorbs the power of the central battery, kills all the Guardians except for Gantha, and that's only because Gantha was hidden. Hal didn't know he was still there. Kills Kilowog. Who else does he kill? Goes insane, kills the Guardians except for Gantha, kills Kilowog, kills Sinestro, and destroys the central battery.
So this is when Sinestro was still part of the Lantern Force?
No, I think he was one of their prisoners, but Hal ends up killing him.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So now Hal is now known as Parallax.
Yeah.
And Hal actually remains as Parallax, a villain of the DC Universe for several years, actually. I thought Parallax was just an event. But no, Hal Jordan was a villain for a couple of years in DC Universe,
Really?
known as Parallax. Yeah. And like uber powerful, like we're talking Dark Side Brainiac level power.
What did he do?
What do you mean?
With all, like, what are events Parallax was involved in?
I think the only one that I know of for sure is 0 Hour. And 0 Hour is when Hal Jordan as Parallax starts trying to rewrite reality, rewrite time, take over time to... so during 0 Hour, Crisis in Time is the title of the series. Hal tries to rewrite time to remake university into a perfect peaceful place.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, that's how powerful Hal Jordan is as Parallax. So this was a crisis in time. So this was a crisis. That means all of DC's heroes were involved during this event. And when Hal went to Oa, of the Green Lantern that he bitch slapped, Guy Gardner was one of those. I'm pretty sure Guy ends up losing an eye. Actually,
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Guy loses an eye at some point.
Yeah, during that fight against Hal Jordan when he became Parallax.
Nice.
Yeah. So when Guy led a team of heroes to Oa to fight Hal, they got bitch slapped.
Yeah, you can imagine. So
Yeah.
So this lasted for years, you said?
Yeah.
How did they fix this?
I'm not 100% sure, but I do know how it ends. And how it ends is Oliver. So we've already established that Oliver and Hal are best friends because the whole entire Green Arrow,
Oliver Queen and Green Arrow.
Yeah. Oliver Queen and Hal Jordan are best friends.
Yep.
So it all accumulates to Oliver shooting an arrow into Hal's chest. So Hal, obviously, you've got to be thinking, Hal has the ability to rewrite time. How does an arrow end up hitting him in the chest? It's because he ended up using all of his powers to combat the entire DC universe. So when he, finally out of juice, that's when Oliver took his shot and shoots Oliver in the chest. Yeah. But that still wasn't the death of of Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan ends up sacrificing himself actually during another event where this Sun Eater was going to destroy our sun. Hal ends up sacrificing himself, his energy, his life essence, to reignite our sun.
Oh shit!
And
so it did eat the sun.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, and Hal ends up saving all of us by sacrificing himself to reignite the sun, and that's when he gets resurrected as the Spectre. So when Hal became, so one thing I did skip over though, is when Hal became Parallax and took out all the Guardians. The only one remaining was Ganthet, and pretty much took out the entire Green Lantern Corps. Ganthet, being the last one alive, ends up the last little bit of Green Lantern energy to anoint a new Green Lantern, and that was Kyle Rayner. Now, Kyle Rayner is unique to all the other Green Lanterns because to be a Green Lantern, you have to be fearless. Kyle Rayner knew fear. Kyle Rayner is not fearless, and Kyle Rayner is an artist too. So you have these military backgrounds and architect and everything, and Kyle Rayner he's an artist, and Kyle Rayner has known fear. So when he is given a ring, his strength, his willpower alone, pretty much forces the ring to do the constructs for him. That's how strong of a willpower Kyle Rayner has. He forces his will upon the ring itself
to work.
That's right.
Even though I have fear, you take my will.
Yeah. Yeah. But Ganthet ends up anointing him as a new Green Lantern and becomes the sole Green Lantern during the whole entire time that Hal Jordan was Parallax, pretty much.
Oh, okay. During that entire encounter.
Yeah. So pretty much just like how in Marvel at one point Nova was the sole Nova Corps member.
Okay.
Kyle Rayner was the sole Green Lantern. He was carrying the entire Green Lantern Corps on his back, pretty much.
Well, because everyone else was pretty much dead?
Yeah. So I'm not sure how, because Sinestro ends up coming back to life. All the Guardians end up coming back to life. So I'm not 100% sure. We're going to have to research that and cover that when we do our episode 2 of Green Lantern. Yeah. But yeah, all of that does get retconned.
Now, you said Hal becomes a Spectre.
Yes.
We've talked about the Spectre once or twice before.
Yes, during Crisis.
Yes, so just as a quick summary, who is he again?
So the Spectre is the embodiment of God's wrath. So whenever somebody does something ungodly, so like murderers and rapists and whatnot, the Spectre is one that shows up and seeks punishment. Now, the Spectre is a sadist. The Spectre, when he seeks punishment, it's brutal, it's unforgiving, and it's terrifying. So in Green Lantern Rebirth here, which we're going to go over in our episode 2 of Green Lantern, but just giving you an idea of the kind of person the Spectre is. Here's this scene where Black Hand ends up invading Oliver Queen Green Arrow's home base, and the Spectre, as Hal Jordan shows up. So Black Hand shows up at Oliver Queen's place to steal the Green Lantern. So when Hal Jordan sacrificed himself to save everybody, he gave his ring to Oliver Queen to keep as safekeeping in case of emergency, break glass, and which is this ring, the Green Lantern ring. In case of emergency, here's my ring. So Black Hand, who was another Green Lantern villain, just a B villain, found out that Oliver Queen has the Green Lantern. He ends up breaking into Green Arrow's place to steal the ring.
Right.
Green Arrow ends up shooting an arrow through his hand, which is right there. So he ends up getting shot in the hand, pinned to the wall. And then the Spectre, as Hal Jordan shows up and says, "You want to be the Black Hand? I'll give you a Black Hand," and ends up decaying his hand into coal. And then so blah, blah, blah. Right, so you can see
Just necrotizes his hand.
Yeah, right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just turned to dust.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and Oliver was not too happy about that, but this was actually out of Hal's control. So, Hal being the Spectre is, we talked a little bit about Dr. Fate, but not really. But it's kind of like the same deal as Dr.
Another
Fate.
persona takes over.
That's right. That's right. So,
You're no longer really in control. You're a backseat rider.
That's right. That's what the Spectre is. That's what Hal is to the Spectre.
That's rough.
Yeah.
You're just like, shit.
Yeah. But yeah. So we are quite a bit over our 1 hour.
Yeah. No, we didn't talk about Kyle.
We haven't.
Should we save him?
We should save him for Rebirth because, so, sum it up, like I said, Kyle Rayner pretty much is the one who becomes the sole Green Lantern, and for quite a bit of time, from the mid-90s for about 10 years, from, I would say, roughly 1995 to 2005, Kyle Rayner was the Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
For a big part of my comic book reading, Kyle Rayner was my Green Lantern. Now, I did read Guy Gardner as Green Lantern because I did start reading comics during the Death of Superman event. So, I did start reading comics before Kyle Rayner, but pretty much I started reading comics as Kyle Rayner was being introduced, really. So my growth into comic book fandom coincided with Kyle's creation into the comic book world.
And at what point does he become white?
That's much later. That's after Rebirth.
That's after Rebirth too.
Yeah, that's like Brightest Day, because
oh wow, so it's after the Darkest Night event and everything.
Yeah. Before that happens, he becomes Ion.
Right.
And Ion is something else that happens during Rebirth, and we will talk about.
I'm not really sure. Yeah, what Ion is.
Well, Ion, just to give you an idea, Ion, so when he becomes Ion, he becomes living Green Lantern energy. So he no longer has to recharge his ring or anything. He has unlimited use of Green Lantern energy.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's Ion.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So Kyle Rayner is really powerful, but we'll get to that in our next episode because Kyle Rayner does become a Green Lantern after Hal Jordan becomes Parallax, and then they defeat Parallax, and Hal Jordan becomes the Spectre. That's pretty much where I wanted to stop this because between then and Rebirth, there's like 10 years, but really it's 10 years of irrelevant stuff. It's just different stories happens, and like just comic book stories and whatnot, but nothing really major that's worth me talking about. All the major stuff that happens is Rebirth on. So next episode, or the next time we do Green Lantern, on our Green Lantern episode 2, is when we're going to go over Rebirth. We're going to go over Blackest Night and Brightest Day. We're going to go over more on Kyle Rayner as Ion and as the White Lantern. Barry Allen as the Blue Lantern. There's a lot to cover in our next episode of
Superman as the Yellow Lantern.
Yeah.
Saint Walker.
Yep.
Trying to think here though. When does the Sinestro car basically step up and fill in for the Green Lantern Corps when they're all blasted to the past? Is that all after Rebirth?
I think that's all during Blackest Night.
Okay.
So, yeah. So our episode 2 of Green Lantern is essentially, we'll be covering the Blackest Night series.
Okay.
Which is huge.
Yes.
Because it's the creation of the emotional spectrum. Because up to this point, up to Parallax, there was no emotional spectrum.
It was just green, was it not? Yeah. There's no yellow, there's no red, there's no orange, there's no blue, there's no white.
No, exactly.
Or black.
That's right. None of that existed. All of that was created by Jeff Johns.
Okay, so we have literally just been doing Green Lanterns.
That's right.
Like, there are no other lanterns yet.
That's right.
We could probably do 2 more episodes.
Probably could do 2 more episodes.
We could do at least 2, I'd say, because there's the whole orange event with Doom and Lex.
That all happens during Blackest Night. Blackest Night
and then there's the Superman with the yellow.
Yeah, that's all Blackest Night.
Exactly.
It's still Blackest Night.
It's a massive event because it's
massive.
Yeah, it's universe wide.
And I've got most of those issues too. So when I show up for the episode 2 of the Green Lanterns, I'm gonna have a lot of And I have a lot of props to show off.
Sweet.
Because, like I said in the last episode, the character that I have the most comics of is Spider-Man. But then after Spider-Man, I have probably equal amount of Green Lantern comics as I have of X-Men comics.
Wow.
Green Lantern and Flash are my two favorite DC heroes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I
was prepared.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the next week, who do we got going into next week there, Kenny?
We were planning on doing Hulk, but I was thinking as I was doing research on Hal Jordan and whatnot, I think the better option is going to be Tony Stark, Iron Man.
Really?
Because if you think about the attitude-wise, the I don't give a shit, fearless attitude, the overconfident, full of himself, arrogant.
Yeah.
Hal Jordan and Tony Stark have similarities in attitude-wise. Hal Jordan's no billionaire playboy, but when you comparing attitude-wise, personality-wise, yep. Hal and Tony are very much alike.
Okay. I was going to say, we could always do a villain.
Yeah, we can. We could always do Sinestro as well.
I was going to say, he might not be a bad one to follow up with, because he's filling a lot of the blanks.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll leave it to a vote. We got Sinestro, Hulk, Iron Man, or I know we could do Solomon. We could always do Grundy.
You can also do we keep on trying to jump back and forth between DC and Marvel. We can do a series of DC comics.
Yeah, I don't think it would matter.
No. We'll put it up to vote.
Yeah. Okay, so we got Iron Man, Solomon, Darkseid. Do we want to do him yet?
No.
We'll hold off on Darkseid.
So Iron Man, Hulk were the two for Marvel.
Right.
And for DC,
Solomon and
Sinestro. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right.
That's it for this week. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in for our Green Lantern episode. This will be part 1 of part 2, if not part 3.
Yep.
This is just getting you from origin to rebirth.
That's right. Oh, from origin to Parallax.
Parallax. We're not quite at rebirth yet. We still got a little bit.
But where we're going to pick up from is
we're
going to be
damn
rebirth.
close.
We're going to pick up from rebirth. Like everything that happens between Parallax and rebirth is uneventful, really. So yeah, part 1 is everything before rebirth. Part 2 is going to be rebirth.
Wicked. Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in this week, guys. This is another episode of Worlds Collide. We're up to episode 13 here for season 2. So tell your friends. Tune in next week. We hope to see you guys same time, same place, 8 p.m. on Twitch TV /NRD Forge. Take care, guys.
Cheers.